This video deals with the elemental orderings within a magical circle. Being the second of two parts, it is an addition to those I made on SIRP and the fields of operation. The first part dealt with the most common orderings within the magical circles. This one focuses on the shapes that are created by using simple logic and common sense. Quashing in the circle. Meditating on the models addressed in part 1 showed that the mutual qualities principle rules or dominates some fundamental symbols and devices in Western Magick. As mentioned in my SIRP video, examples include Liber Resh Vel Helios, Aristotle's periodic table, the mystical tablet of union, the ordering of the sub-angles in the elemental tablets, the Rose Cross Lamen, such as the invocation of the bornless one, which states, "Come thou forth and follow me, and make all spirits subject unto me, so that every spirit of the firmament and of the ether, upon the earth and under the earth, on dry land and in the water, a whirling air and a threshing fire, and every spell and scourge of God the vast one shall be obedient unto me." Now, that doesn't sound like the winds or the zodiac model, but I'd be happy to know whether you feel any different. Golden Dawn Pentagrams. From such a perspective, the winds model also doesn't match the actual elemental ordering within the Golden Dawn Pentagrams, and as mentioned in my SIRP video, the spirit banishing or closing pentagrams pair, group or close the elements into two couples. Separated or disconnected by spirit, this is an active pair of fire and air and a passive one of water and earth. The closing pentagrams start with one or the other if the pentagram is active or passive, but now the couples are close to each other while clashing is prevented since spirit mediates between them. Within the pentagram. In this post I'll add that if we make a circle of the elements within the spirit closing pentagrams, they'll still be ordered by their mutual qualities or density, starting with air, fire, spirit, earth and finally water. Remove spirit from the equation and the dynamic remains. In fact, things move even further from the winds model, which doesn't match any other tracing of Golden Dawn pentagrams, considering how others go through their elements based on their mutual qualities. Whether banishing or invoking, active or passive, Golden Dawn pentagrams perfectly express that density or mutual qualities principle. Shapes and rotation. Inspired by J. Alan Moore, Illyrian, and his opening by Watchtower/SIRP, I began looking at rituals as actual shapes created via different models and formulas. Considering Golden Dawn standard positioning and how the elements mediate or vibrate between their positions and using a bit of imagination, to me this resembles the infinity shape with spirit at its intersection, but let me know whether you agree. OBW and YHVH. Traditionally, OBW starts in the south, moving to the west, east and north, forming a Z or zigzag shape. Now, if I use plenty of imagination, this shape can resemble a segment of the whiting flash. Fire, water, air, earth. The allegory of YHVH is that the fire and water, or the king and the queen clash or have sex, producing air and earth, or the prince and the princess, which clash or make love on their own, becoming the king and the queen. It really isn't static or a one-time action, but an ongoing process and movement of renewal and transformation similar to INRI, which I discussed in my LRH video. Corresponding to Tarot's kings, queens, princes and princesses, YHVH is all about uniting the opposites. It expresses nothing but multifaceted and permanent reconciliation and symmetry. Yot is fire, He water, Vau air and the second He is earth. Symbolizing spirit and 300, the letter Shin reconciles all these elements. Placed in the center, it turns the tetragrammaton into the pentagrammaton, which is spelled Yeshua and is associated with the cross. And that I think is precisely why you bless the spirits in the name of Yeshua Yehovah when giving license to depart after OBW. Before Christianity. Before Christianity, the cross relates to the reconciliation of opposites, particularly horizontal and vertical, masculine and feminine, etc. This also reminds me of some of Aristotle's diagrams of the four solids as shown in this article. A circle and the cross. Now, whatever model you use, you're creating a dodecahedron if following an LRP with SIRP or OBW. Also a circle and a cross, regardless of the case or the model that you use. Nonetheless, I think it comes naturally to associate the former with an everlasting gradual transition, whereas the latter with a more direct and explosive clashing. Seeing the circle as a loop, doesn't it make more sense to have the elements based on their mutual qualities, especially when some scholars explain spirit can be only perceived through different elemental arrangements, as we can see in Golden Dawn spirit pentagrams, following the density principle. That of course is only if we accept that the elements strive for their natural placement in the universe, allowing them to transform from one to another, as it was believed by Aristotle and mentioned in the previous part. Supposedly, that is what allows them for that gradual or circular transformation or transition. Also, if we consider that space or the universe is associated with the feminine, oval and circular shape, best depicted through the star goddess Nuit relating to a circle. Being her partner, Hadith, the masculine, is the center of that circle, which can be anywhere and depending on how you look at it, can apply to this arrangement. Horizontal and vertical. Viewing the cross as an actual point of quashing with the emerging from it rose, doesn't it make more sense to have one couple, the king and the queen, quashing freely on the vertical, while the other, the prince and the princess, on the horizontal lines? And isn't all that the more natural expression of what we covered about YHVH and YHVH? Also, how logical is to have the king and the princess on the horizontal line? What are your thoughts on that? Feel free to let me know in the comment section. Reflections. Considering all this, my subjective view is that having fire and water on one line and air and earth on another makes more sense. The first couple quashes and becomes or creates the second, which quashes on its own and becomes the first. Orchestrated by the vibrating between depth and height spirit, in my humble opinion, this process and composition also could resemble a hypercube representing the divine's transcendental nature. You have the four directions plus depth and height, and this I think is very interesting, especially considering that LIRP and SIRP or OBW created a decahedron regardless of their order. Introducing asymmetry, to me the Winds model often resembles a broken cycle or chain reaction as it creates friction between south and west but keeps the mutual dryness of fire and earth. Eliminating that, the density model has the active and passive couple matching the tree of life while keeping the smooth transition of the oval shape, and you can feel free to let me know whether you agree or not. Personal experience. Chased by such reflections, I couldn't stop myself from using my ongoing experimentations with Illyrian's watchtower opening to implement the mentioned. That being using YHVH as in the Regardis version, but forming a cross by going from fire to water, air and earth, and then adding the 3 circumambulations with the sign of the Emperor. Although further testing is required, by far I'm getting surprisingly good results by doing things this way. And based on my personal experience, placing the elements in such manner has a superior balancing effect, which is one of the goals of the 4 elements version of SIRP and opening by watchtower. Rotation. According to Moore, incorporating the middle pillar with the caduceus bread adds rotation. That being the case, doesn't this set the shape you've built in a perpetual movement around its center imply a circular or cyclical fashion? And if so, doesn't this continuously replace its quadrant or element directions? Common sense. Also, aren't the watchtowers supposed to be at the ends of the universe? If so, why align your rituals with the winds of Earth? What if you aim to follow a stellar path in the current aeon or aeons? Plus, according to sources, including self-initiation into the Golden Dawn, Earth is inevitably invoked, whether you want it or not. Besides that, I believe it is good to remind ourselves what we actually mean when speaking of the universe. What universe? Is it the fabric of space and time as advocated visualizing in Donald Tyson's The Magician's Workbook? Or is it the starry sky that is the goddess Nuit? Now, although such visualizations should be essential as long as they facilitate your workings, the answer to the question can be found in the wisdom of one Milo Duquette. When explaining the Enochian basics, Duquette emphasizes there is no Enochian magic. Instead, there is the operator's magic and the Enochian entities and techniques. In the same way, there are no elemental universes, but different aspects of your universe which the water enhance. Duquette also explains that Golden Dawn Enochian is by no means wrong or incorrect just because it doesn't match these original attributions, and instead it is a different approach. Later he adds that the whole point of any ritual is to make yourself a magician, and elsewhere he clarifies that there is no subjective or objective, and the techniques are tools to manipulate your own subjective and objective, which is all subjective. Considering all this and my personal experiences, to me, opening by watchtowers is opening the gates to the depths of your life and existence, which includes seeing the ins and outs of what Nuit offers you. It is really up to you to figure out how to produce the greatest impact with your magic, and the Ciceros explained that different orders successfully adopted various customizations. Given that, doesn't it make more sense to do this most naturally for you? Feel free to let me know what you think. Inspired by Crowley, I like to say that healthy skepticism is the essence of scientific illuminism. After all, the stages and components of these rituals remain. You have the same combinations of divine names and symbols for each element in each quadrant, such as the same archangels, tablets and meanings. The key is to use that best for your current situation and not worship dogmas. Also, to keep yourself open to change. John Fortune and the Ciceros agree that the tradition was meant to evolve, and the same applies to our practices. Plus, these customizations do not alter the entire formula as much as you may think. Like GRH, the elemental and zodiac SIRP remain identical. Slightly different are only LRP, LRH and SRH in case you use that for the planets. For the 4 elements SIRP or OBW, you have the same combinations of Enochian and Hebrew names impacting your psyche pretty identically. In fact, these modifications make sense only if they optimize your 4 elements versions, so they serve you better. As a Virgo, I always look for the most logical explications and symmetry. Considering the patterns of my life, I tend to rearrange things and opt for the less conventional, more intuitive and holistic approaches. And to me, the density model checks those boxes based on what we covered in both parts of the video, but you may feel different. As I, and probably many others like to say, a technique and a system are just as good as the operator. Hence, it is your responsibility to make the best use of them, and that implies tweaking things if necessary. To reiterate from part 1, the Zodiac and the Winds models have the most potent egregor as you can learn from Mark Stavish's egregors. But all this is just my opinion, which may or may not resonate with you. I'll be happy if you let me know your take on the topic. Feel free to share that, such as your personal experiences using different orderings. Also, your suggestions for future videos. Otherwise, like this video if you think it provides value, subscribe to this channel for more content like this. Check my other works and books if you're into healthy living and tech reviews, such as my coaching services, by DMing me on Instagram. As long as for the actual results of such consulting, I suggest checking my other channel, especially its latest content. Who knows, I might be able to help improve your body and health in conformity with your will while preserving your willpower for the truly meaningful in your life. Think of that for a moment. Also, visit my Etsy store if you need elemental tablets and a cheat sheet on the fields of operation and or SIRP. All my music and articles are on Spotify and Medium, and I'll see you in the next one. Thank you for your time.